In the previous lesson, we have created our first graphical user interface window with PySide 6 or Qt for Python. Now in this lesson, we want to talk about window class types. So now, as I've already said that there are different window types that you can use. Now, first let's talk about the QMain window. Now the QMain window class provides a main application window. A main window provides a framework for building an application's user interface. Qt for Python has QMain window and its related classes for main window management. QMain window has its own layout to which you can add Q toolbars, Q dock widgets, Q menu bar, and also Q status bar. We have another type of window is Q dialog. Now, the Q dialog class is the base class of dialog window, and a dialog window is a top-level window mostly used for short-term tasks and brief communication with the user. Q dialogs may be modal or models. Now, another type is Q widget. We already have created an example of Q widget. Now, the Q widget class is the base class for all user interface objects. The widget is the important point of the user interface. It receives mouse, keyboard, and other events from the Windows system and paints a representation of itself on the screen. So now let's create our practical example. So now this is my PyCharm ID. The first thing is, now in the first section, I'm going to create another Python file. And in here, let me just call it, for example, second window. And in here, the first thing is that we need to, from the Qt widgets module, we need to import Q application. And this time we want to import Q main window. So I can just say from pyside.qt widgets, we are going to import Q application, and also we are going to import sys. Okay, so after that we are going to create our Q application in here, and we can leave it empty, or we can just say sys.argv. And after doing this, now this time instead of Q widget, we are going to use Q main window. Also, we need to import Q main window. So Q main window. Now we are going to create our Q main window in here. Now let me change the font size a little bit. So if you want to change the font size in PyCharm IDE, you can just go to the settings, and from here, I think in the editor, we can just find the font. And I think this font is good, or I can just say 27. Apply. Okay. So Q main window, we have our window, and after creating of the Q main window, now we need to show the window. So window.show, and also we need to enter to the loop. So sys.exit and app.execute. Okay, so right now if I run this, let me run it. We have a simple window in here. So now you can see that this is the window. It's like Q widget. We have minimize or maximize like this. Now, but the best thing about this Q main window is this. But for example, if you want to create an application that you will need to create a status bar or toolbar, then on that time, it's good to use Q main window. For example, in the Q main window in here, I can create a status bar. Okay, so in here I can just say window.status bar, and I can just say .show message, and for example, I can just say welcome to course. Okay, so now if I run this, so now you can see that we have our status bar in here. Okay, now also you can add, for example, menu bar. So in a Q main window, for example, I can just say window dot menu bar, and I can just say dot add menu, and I want to add file menu. And if I run this, so you can see that I have file in here. Now, for example, If I change this to, or for example, if I also use QWidget in here, and now instead of this Q main window, if I use QWidget, you can see that we have a warning in here, and if I run this, it will not work, and we are receiving an error that object has no attribute status bar. That's because you can just create the status bar in a Q main window. You cannot create that in a Q dialog or QWidget. So we can just change this to Q main window, and we can remove this. Okay, so now this was the Q main window. Let's just create a Q dialog window. It's, as I've already said, that it's basically dialog. It's just a dialog window. So third window.py, and in here what we want, we need to just say .qt widgets. We are going to import our Q application and also Q dialog. So Q dialog, and let me create my Q application in here. You can leave it an empty list, or you can just pass the sys.argument v, and now I can use the Q dialog window, and also I can show the window. So .show, and after that I can just say sys.exit, and I can just say app.execute. Okay, so now if I run this, and now you can see that we have our just basic window, a Q dialog window, but right now you can see that we don't have any maximize or minimize window in here. Okay, so now let me also show you how you can create, for example, using Qt Creator. So I can just go to the new project, and from here I want to choose Qt for application, and I want to just create a Qt for Python window. Click on choose, and for this I want to just choose the PySite 6, and I can just use the default location, and for example I can just give it second window, and let's click on next. We are going to use PySite 6, and this time we're going to use Q main window. Also you can use custom a class, but we want to use a Q main window. Okay, and after that we are going to just click on next, finish. Okay, so now the project is created. We can remove this. It should be app.execute. This is our Q main window, and now if I run this, save all, so I have my window in here. Now you can just for example, because we're using class in here, and I can just use so in here I can just say, for example, cell dot status bar dot show message, and I can just say, for example, welcome to not this by site 6 course. Okay, and when you're using Qt Creator, there will be some warnings. For example, contains white space, and we can just remove this white space, and now we are not seeing anything. So if I save this and if I run this, so you can see that we have this in here. Okay, welcome to PySite 6 course, and blank line space, and there's no problem because it should be indented with this. Okay, so now also, for example, if you want, you can add a menu bar. So I can just copy this, and in here I can just say, for example, self dot menu bar file, and if I save it and if I run it, so you can see that we have file in here. Okay, and it is working. So like this you can create your window type in the Qt Creator. We'll talk that how we can use the object-oriented concepts, and we will talk about this in the next video. Okay.